G'day and welcome to a special edition of Grassroots Racer brought to you by Pedal Suspension and Brakes Bendigo. This week I think I need to change the name of the show to Legend Racer, and I'm really excited to speak to tonight's guest, John Bowe, who definitely falls under the category of one of the legends of Australian motorsport. With so many career highlights, I'd be here all day if I mentioned them all. Still racing today in the Touring Car Masters category, I can't wait to hear more about his motorsport journey. Welcome, John Bowe, or as JB as he's also known to many people.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's nice to connect with guys starting out in their racing life. I mean, I was one once, and we all start at the start. There's no other way to start, and I wish you the best. If I can help you, I will. Of course, but I can't help you with money, and money is the key to most things in motorsport, regardless of whether you're talented or not.
Yeah, that's one of the things that lots of people have had to overcome over the years. Firstly, I have to mention that you grew up in Tassie, and my mum was born there too.
Whereabouts?
She was born in Devonport as well.
Yeah, I was born in Devonport. Yeah. Wow.
Cool. She's a massive fan of yours.
We could be related.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
No, that's a joke. I mean, everybody makes jokes about people in Tasmania being related.
Oh, right.
It was just a joke. Yeah.
I have to ask, though, what really inspired your passion for motorsport back then, and how did you get started?
I grew up in a motorsport family, so from my very early memories, my dad was a mechanic, and he did sort of tuning on people's cars like MGs and Triumphs and stuff like that, sports cars of the era, of a weekend. And then he prepared several people's race cars in a garage, which was our little suburban house with a garage at the end of the driveway. So I was always surrounded by cars. So I grew up with a love of cars, and in terms of racing, I mean, when I was about 7 or 8, my dad started racing in an MG special, and so we went to the races all the time. There were only probably 6 meetings a year, Symmons Plains and Baskerville in southern Tas, and I just had this thing in my head. I had no mad ambition, but I just wanted to do it. So, when I was old enough, or when you could get a competition license in Tassie or with CAMS, my dad and I went halves in an Elfin Formula V, and it started quite a journey because we eventually formed quite a relationship with Gary Cooper, who you're way too young to know about, but he was Elfin in Australia, and he gave me an opportunity to race outside Tassie, and it was pretty, when I look back on it, it was very special times, but at the time you're just forging ahead, doing your best, so you don't even think about it too much, but I do now. I appreciate it very much.
So when you said you got the opportunity to race outside of Tasmania, are we talking Australia-wide?
Yeah. Gary, I had Elfin cars, like I had an Elfin V, a Formula Ford, an F3, several F3 cars, all raced in Tassie, and I did quite well in them. I was quite fast in them. So Gary took a liking to me. He was a very quiet, reserved guy, and he knew my dad as well. So he took a liking to me. So he helped me, and he invited me to do a test in the Formula 5000, which was a big thing in 1978. So I went over to Adelaide with my dad, and I did a test in it at Adelaide Raceway, which no longer exists, and I must have done okay, because he then let me race it at Oran Park for the last round of the Gold Star Series, and it was a big step. I went from 130 horsepower F3 car to a 500 horsepower Formula 5000. So it was a big step. And, he gave me my opportunity. And then from, during 79 and 80, which is an awful long time ago, I raced the Elfin factory F5000 in the Gold Star Series. So I mean, it was looking back on it, it was a major thing by him to help me out like that. It was just because it's not like he said, oh, well, you give me $5,000 or $10,000 a meeting or whatever. It was none of that stuff that happens now. It was just, coming over a drive and it was anyway. I've been, very fortunate. I mean, I really feel it now, but at the time I didn't even think about it. I just did it. So I did my best. And that's what you need to concentrate on, doing your best and getting the best things you can get for yourself. So the best car, the best people around you, the best advice, the best data. It's just about maximising what you can do. Back then there wasn't any data, and Gary helped me lots about advice with how you set up cars and what changes this and all that. I mean, I feel now I'm an expert at it, and I probably am, but back then I wouldn't have a clue. Honestly, wouldn't have a clue.
Gary gave you your first opportunity in the Formula V to sort of go overseas. When you first started, do you know how to use the H pattern and stuff like that?
No, it wasn't a Formula V. I mean, my first race car was a Formula V. I then subsequently had, and this is in Tasmania, so Tasmania's got a stretch of water, so it's not like you can hook your trailer on and tow it to Calder or Phillip Island. You can't. You've got to go on a ship. And so I had a Formula V, a Formula Ford, 2 Formula 3 cars, Elfin cars, and then a Formula 2 car, which Gary then agreed to run from the factory for me. So, you need to, I guess, if I'm advising young guys, you need to make someone take some notice of you. That he took some notice of me, and he helped me then from there on. So that's what you need to do. But the main thing you got to do is enjoy it. Just love it. Love racing, because racing's fantastic. It doesn't matter whether you did it 30 years ago or I do it now. I still love it. I love getting out on the track. I love driving as fast as the car will go. I also love, setting up the suspension or the setup of the car so it does what I want it to do. So you learn all that as you go. You can't just, say, oh, I love a car that understeers or I love a car that oversteers. You've got to learn all that. And, how you learn it is by doing it. So it's no shortcut. There's no shortcut.
My mum also told me that my great-grandfather used to love watching the car racing in Longford. Did you ever go there when they used to have the events?
Yeah, I did, absolutely. Yeah. I went there as a kid with my dad and my family. We used to go every year. My dad raced there. It finished in 1968, so I was only quite relatively young, not completely young, but relatively young. And the last race they had there was won by Pierce Courage, who eventually later on lost his life at Zandvoort in Holland. So, and it was wet and it was horrible. It was a horrible meeting. But yeah, I went there for a lot of times. It was fantastic. It was an old style racetrack, like Bathurst used to be. And Bathurst still quite old style, but back then Longford, was very old style.
Yeah, and Bathurst has now been altered a little bit over the years compared to what it would have been like when you first raced there. But the layout's still the same, but they would have changed the track and all that.
Yeah, Bathurst changed since I first raced there a bit. I mean, the chase is new. That was new in 87. The track's smoother and less bumpy, and it's got more runoff and more, bit more safety down the Conrod Straight back in the old days. Well, I was there quite late, but, back in the old days, there was nothing, no guardrails, nothing. If you went off the track, you had a punch or something, you speared into the trees. So it's much safer. Yeah, it's still a mega track though, like the safety things they've put in place have been regulated essentially. And you've got to give the council credit for doing it and subsequent governments for doing it. But it's still, you make a mistake at Bathurst, you usually hit something. So
Yeah.
it's a special place.
Yeah, there's been a lot of safety at Bathurst because I think one year Dick Johnson tapped the wall coming out of Forest Elbow and ended up at one of the trees.
Yeah, well, that's right, he did. But I mean, you can tap the same wall now, but you don't go into the trees.
Yeah.
So you just hit the fence, and it can, it stops you going into the trees. But it's very, it's unforgiving. It's the unforgiving mountain, if you want to make it dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that grassroots races my age, do you think that Formula V and Formula Ford are good categories to start out in for open wheel racing?
Absolutely. The best, absolutely. No question, nothing else. I mean, I know there's a big upsurge in Hyundai XL racing, but I think, open wheelers are much more delicate to drive. They take much more technique. They don't forgive mistakes as much. I honestly think that, starting in open wheel racing, that's my opinion. I mean, it may not be everybody's opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Formula V, Formula Ford is definitely, no question, the way to go in motor racing. Absolutely, no question. I would be, I'd argue with anybody that it's any different.
In your younger days, you competed in Formula 5000, which you were talking about just before. It was an awesome category. Can you tell the viewers what the cars were?
Well, they were single-seat cars with a 5-litre stock block engines. So most of them had Chevy engines. There were some Holden engines that Repco built. They had about 500 horsepower. They weighed about 650 kilos. They had big tyres, a lot of noise, very, they were from the late 60s to, 1980, they were pretty special racing car around the world, in America, in Europe, and then in England, and then in Australia. But it slowly petered away because they were expensive to run. Those days were before, there were rev limiters and things, so they had a lot of engine trouble, and engines weren't like they are now, where they're much more reliable. And it slowly faded away. I mean, there's a very big historic Formula 5000 fraternity in Europe, both Europe and here, and particularly New Zealand. The Kiwis have embraced it like crazy. They've got like 20, 30 cars.
Oh, wow.
But they were like, at the time, say let's say mid to late 70s, before ground effects came into Formula One, they were as quick as a Formula One car around a lot of circuits. So they were fast cars. And people loved them. And then they slowly didn't love them anymore, and the fields got smaller. It's like a lot of categories in many countries, they fade away if they lose support. So if you start off with, back in those days, they had the Tasman series, then the Rothman series, and they had 20 or 30 cars here, and then eventually the races had 15 cars, and then they had 12 cars. So it just fades away because people aren't interested anymore because there's not enough cars. So
similar to Oz cars, isn't it? Is that what they were called? Aussie cars? They were the Australian NASCARs.
Yeah, Oscar was NASCAR related, Aussie style NASCARs, cheaper than NASCARs, run at Calder Park. So they didn't race anywhere much. They did the odd road circuit race at, say, Surfers Paradise Street Circuit, maybe Adelaide Raceway, which was operating then. But mostly it was at the Thunderdome, and it was all conceived by the late Bob Jane, and it was pretty special at its time, but it faded away. It faded away because the entries got less and the crowds got less, and eventually can't get sponsors, and so keeping a category going is really, you got to admire like Formula V and Formula Ford because they still survived. They started in the 60s, late 60s, and they're still going, and they're still seen as a breeding ground for talented drivers. So, it's fantastic. Good.
Back to the Formula 5000s, would you say they're what the S5000s are these days, but just like, newer? And
the S5000 is basically a new version of what Formula 5000 was. It's a crate style engine. It's a Ford Coyote engine built to make about 560 horsepower. It's quite controlled. Back in those days, there were lots of different chassis. There was like Lola and Chevron, and in Australia, Elfin, and a few others. But this S5000 is a control chassis, so it's a proper safe carbon chassis with a halo. It complies with FIA rules. It's a modern version of Formula 5000. I think it's great. It's terrific. It's been held back a little bit by COVID because they've had to cancel meetings and cancel series and things like that. But it's when you watch them, I don't know. Have you seen them?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the S5000s when there's the V8 Supercar support categories.
Yeah, the S5000 is a great thing to aim for a young guy like you. I think if you can do a year or two of FV and then do some Formula Ford and drive an S5000, I mean, they are just fantastic. They are, like fantastic cars. Eventually, you can drive touring cars when you're 30 or 40 or older, But there's some good races coming up for S5000, and it's compared to touring cars or supercars, it's not crazy expensive. So, something to think about. If you could drive one of those when you're 20, you got to, you could then, I mean, obviously there's always money involved, but you could think about going to do F3 in Europe or F2 in Europe or whatever, There's no danger in thinking about all this stuff. It's just whether you manage to be able to do it or not. So you can have dreams.
Yeah.
And maybe they come true.
Well, you raced a bit of Formula 5000 and you ended up racking 2 championships in back-to-back in 1984 and 5. Did you really enjoy competing in the series?
Yeah, of course. I love open wheel racing. I mean, even in the last few years, one of my friends had an old Formula One car, which was a 70s car, and I love driving it. And I do drive the odd historic race meeting in a historic car, in an open wheeler, because they're fantastic. They're just super fantastic cars to drive. But in Australia, I mean, the way to make a living has been in touring cars first of all, and supercars later on. So, I mean, unfortunately, and if you can afford to get to Europe or get to America and race, that's the way to go, in my opinion, for young guys personally. But you got to be able to afford it, because everybody's got their hand out. So you need to sort of build relationships, try and get the best deals. You're only starting out, so starting out is go to your next race meeting or your test day, do your best. Go to your first race meeting, do your best. Try and win some races, try and learn some racecraft, learn how it all works. It's a journey. You're not very old, so you're doing a great job here. So good on you.
Yeah. Then thanks, John. I think we should talk about your touring car career and V8 supercar career back when you were pretty much a Ford driver most of the time. What was your favourite Ford to drive during your professional career?
Good question. Generally, when you've driven as many cars, say, as I have, and you look back on them, you look back on the ones with fondness of the ones that you had success with. So I had success with the Sierra quite a lot. I had success with the EF, Falcon, EL, not as much success with AU, BA, so I look back on some of those cars and think, that was a good car, that wasn't so good. a lot of it's controlled by the people that are around you, you know, the mechanics, the engineering staff and whatnot. So part of the secret to having a successful career is to get the right people in your corner. You know, that means, first of all, you know, you're probably a dad and, you know, some helpers when you're starting out and so on and so on. So I've got lots of favourite cars, but only because I did well in them, and I've got lots of cars I you know, don't like because they tried to kill me, so I don't like them.
Yeah.
I won't name any.
Well, the Sierra was a beast in the straight from what I could see. Would you use that to your advantage when you were racing people like Jim Richards?
I've always liked racing Jim Richards. Jim Richards is a very fine driver and and tough, but not stupid. You know, he was tough. He was always considered. I always thought he had he had brain space left after he was driving the car. Some people drive the car and don't have any thinking space left in their brain. So I always thought he had some. And I wouldn't say, you know, the Sierra was good in some places. It was quite good at Bathurst because it had quite good power, but it was hard work on tight tracks and it had a lot of turbo lag. But, you know, that was what they were. So you just did your best with them. And it was before data, you know, in our case anyway. I drove for Dick Johnson and, you know, we didn't have data. They had engine data, but no car behaviour data. And later on with supercars and things, car behaviour data came in, and now everybody's got data. People do track days. Now I've got data. So data's really helps you progress, I can tell you.
Yeah.
We had a good year in 92 because it was the last year of the Sierra, and Ross Stone had joined the team, and Ross Stone had been working for Kevin Waldock on his Sierra, and his brother Jimmy Stone was working for Longhurst, so obviously they had a bit of brotherly chat, and the car, you know, really took a step up in terms of handling and power down and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a good 92. I thought was a good year, the last year of the Sierras. You know, we had a 6-speed Hollinger box in it, H pattern, of course, which all cars should be, but they're not. I only say that against the paddle shift brigade, but yeah, it was good. I mean, honestly, I've had so many. I've done 1,210 races, I think. So it's a lot of races. I can remember quite a lot of them, but you know, not every single one.
You've raced a lot. I think that nearly equals Fernando. I think that's a bit more than Fernando Alonso in Formula One.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I've done more races in Australia than anyone, and I'm like 3rd or 4th in the world or something. I mean, it's just a lot of races, but you know, I mean, I love it, and I'm so blessed, really fortunate that I'm able to still do it. I mean, how long will I be able to race for? I don't know, but you know, I'm planning to race in 2022. So you know, let's see what happens.
We all know that Bathurst is an iconic track to most people. I don't think you wouldn't be a racer if you didn't want to drive around it. I can only imagine the amount of times you've driven the track, and you've probably lost count. But what did it really mean to you when you won in 1994 with Dick Johnson?
Oh well, it's, you know, winning anything is a great thrill. You know, like I was brought up by my dad not to get too carried away. Like I don't climb fences like what's the guy in the Indy cars that does when he wins Indy? You know, he climbs up the fence and all that like a monkey. Well, I don't do that. So I try and keep my emotions, you know, under control. But it was terrific because you're part of a team of probably 20 people, you know, and they all put in a massive effort, and to be able to get across the line first was, you know, fantastic. It was really, really special. It was, you know, and Dick and I were friends. We're still friends. You know, we had a few moments when I left when didn't like me much, and so but we're friends, we're buddies. In fact, I was texting him tonight, so it's just, but Bathurst probably in my life has probably been the best career win that I've experienced. But I've won quite a lot of other races, and at the time you just think, oh well, that's I thought we should have won Bathurst. The times we did win, and we came second probably 5 or 6 times, so we could have won heaps of times, but we didn't. We won twice. So I now am much more appreciative of it than I was back then, because when you're in the moment, you just, in a few weeks' time, you go and race again somewhere else, and it's a different track and a different set of circumstances, so you just get on with it. But I look back now and I think, thank goodness that I won that race, because Glenn Seaton has never won it, and I'm friends with Glenn Seaton now, but back in the day we were mega competitors, so I'm very fond of him now. But he didn't win. He led, but he didn't win, so I'm glad I did. At least I can go to my grave and think at least I won Bathurst.
My dad loved Glenn Seaton back then when he used to race when he was little. And just Glenn never really got lucky, did he?
No, he didn't. I drove with him in '87 in the Nissan. We came second. That's the best result he ever had. Like he could have won a number of times, but it just didn't happen. And you do need. Motorsport's one of the few sports where a bit of luck is not a bad thing to have. Even this year, I went to Bathurst in December for the last round of the Touring Car Masters, and I was leading the series by 10 points, but I didn't think really I had much chance of winning it, and I did win it because other people had problems, and we kept it in the ball game. So like that's luck basically. So.
Yeah. Well, you've obviously done really well. You've never really stopped racing, and you've been very competitive in Touring Car Masters, which is a really popular category now. What have you enjoyed most about having the opportunity to keep racing for so long?
Well, I love racing, so I love going to the racetrack. I love racing people. I enjoy their company. I enjoy the competition. And I really love it. I truly, truly love it. I wouldn't do it otherwise. I mean, in my professional racing life, I didn't have to do much really, other than, stay fit and stay focused and do some few sponsor things. But now, since I've started racing Touring Car Masters, I have to find sponsors, look after sponsors, do events for them, do things. It's much harder work than I ever experienced as a pro racer. So, but I do it because I love it. That's the reason I do it. And, I think, the passion I have for it, I didn't realise I had in my earlier years, but I've got it. So, I want to race as long as I can without being, hopeless, basically. And obviously as you get older, you don't do it as well, and that's a fact. That's any sport. That's be it golf or basketball or whatever. You don't. So I hope to be able to keep going for another year or two or whatever. It just depends. I mean, it depends a lot on money. Being able to get the money.
That's a crucial thing about motorsport. And you've had a couple cars in your time, but one thing I know about you is you've raced. You like to race for people instead of owning the cars. You had a car for a while called Mustang Sally in Touring Car Masters. Was it fun to drive?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I got into Touring Car Masters because the guy that invented the category, Tony Hunter, he started it. He offered me a drive in his Camaro. It was a '69 Camaro, so I did a few races in that for like 1.5 seasons, and then he sold it. So I either had to buy a car or something, and I knew the Mustang Sally, and I knew the guy that owned it and built it, and it was a good, well-built car. So with the help of a friend of mine, I bought it. So, and we had some terrific success together. So, and it's funny, you know, I then sold it to a friend of mine, another friend of mine, a different friend in Mackay, who then loaned it to Stevie Johnson, Dick's son, and he, you know, let's call it 70% of the time beat me. So that was a dumb thing to do. But anyway, I don't mind, you know, like I was happy about it. And now it's been sold to another guy who owns it in Toowoomba, but he's a collector, and you know, he just loves the car. And I was only talking to him yesterday. He's a terrific bloke called Paul Smith, and he goes out into his garage sometimes and he starts it up and warms it up and listens to it, and you know, but he's got no intention to race it. So it was just a good, you know, good time, no question. And a 69 Mustang back in 1969 was a good race car, and they're still a good race car.
I guess I would like to, you know, own an old Mustang like that too. At least it keeps it out of your hair. No one's gonna drive a Mustang past you.
Oh no, there's plenty of Mustangs in the category that are good cars. Yeah. The Touring Car Masters is about lots of different cars. You know, like in the early days, it was a bit simpler, but now it's, you know, it's serious racing, and it's a juggle to be able to stay competitive. But the main thing, you know, I try and do for myself is to leave on Sunday night and say, well, I did a good job, you know, whether I came sixth or first or third. To satisfy yourself that you did a good job, you didn't do anything dumb, you drove to your best, you know, your car was adjusted good to do what you wanted it to do. That's the most important thing to me, anyway.
Well, you recently just won the 2021 Touring Car Masters Championship. Gary O'Brien must be proud of you for sure.
Well, Gary built the car, you know, and he's become a friend, of course. He's a clever bloke, you know, and he's got clever, you know, a few clever people around him. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, I like racing with those guys. They're I don't know. It's more, to me now, after all this time, it's more about enjoyment than winning. But I've got an inbuilt competitive instinct because I've done it for so long. So I don't ever go into a race and not try hard. Even the reverse grid ones, I try hard because I think it's unfair to the people that come and watch you that you don't have a go. But, you know, that's my way.
Another great thing about you is how generous you are helping other drivers, and you do drive days as well. If you had one main piece of advice to any grassroots racer out there wanting to race professionally, what would it be?
Just be dedicated. I mean, there's so many knocks that happen. You know, it can be a car unreliability or things, people driving into you or making a mistake yourself or whatever. You just got to keep on going. You got to keep focusing. You got to be dedicated. Do your best. Always do your best, and that means in every way. You know, with your sponsors, if you have sponsors, you're lucky, and just, you know, try your hardest, do your best. Maybe we can do the Bathurst 6 Hour together in a year or two.
I'll be up for that.
Okay, well, you talk to Petters and Bendigo because they're good people, great people, and they've done the Bathurst 6 Hour a few times, so I'd be up for them.
I'd make sure we get the car and then we can do it.
Yeah, okay, I'll be up for it. Okay.
You've driven so many race cars. Is there anything left for you on your bucket list that you haven't driven yet, but that you would like to?
No, not really. I really enjoyed my time in Joe's old 1974 Formula One car. It was just awesome because I followed Formula One very closely back in that time, you know, as a youngster, and I loved it. I'd like to do a few more overseas races, you know, in historic races. I mean, I've raced at Goodwood, I've raced at Laguna Seca, and I've raced at Texas, the Circuit of the
Yeah.
Americas, but I hope that, COVID permitting, we'll be able to do a few others. I'd like to do Le Mans Classic, and I'd like to do Goodwood again, and I'd like to go back to America just because it's such an adventure racing against people you don't know. Like in 2019, I won a race on Sunday morning it was a category for 1950 up to 1955 sports cars in America. So it was like all these weird American specials, with Corvette engines in Austin Healey's and really weird stuff. But my mate Joe's got an Allard that was raced originally in the early 50s by Carroll Shelby. And anyway, I won the race, so it was fantastic. It was the Americans that didn't know what to think because they didn't know who we were or anything. So it was just good fun. Just good fun.
Yeah. That must have been amazing, John. I could sit here all day and keep talking to you, but your computer's nearly flat. So I better wrap it up and leave you alone.
That's all right, mate. It's great to talk to you. Very articulate young man. So I wish you the best, and certainly feel you've got my phone number, so feel free. You can talk to me anytime about anything. And
hope I can get to meet you at the track soon.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
And yeah, it's been an amazing opportunity to speak to you. Thanks, Kat from Petters. You're absolutely a true racer and such an inspiration. Amazing, John. I look forward to seeing you out on the track for many years to come. Thanks to all the viewers who joined me for this special edition of Grassroots Racer. I hope you enjoyed it as much as myself. For anyone getting back into racing in 2022, I'd love to hear about it, so drop me a message if you'd like to catch up. And remember, everyone, drive fast and take chances on the track, of course.
Only on the track.
Only on the track.
Well done, mate.
Thanks, John.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.